What went wrong for Chris Eubank Jr. in the Liam Smith fight? What led to him getting knocked out? Well, in a couple of previous videos, or at least one previous video, I mentioned the possibility that Roy Jones's influence on Chris Eubank Jr.'s style might have actually been to his detriment in this particular instance. And I say this because Roy Jones, during his career, despite being a freak athlete, was not a great technical fighter. He did many things which, from a conventional standpoint, you would say are technically incorrect. And as Roy Jones Jr. got older and his reflexes started to slow down, he was being caught by shots that he could previously slip or pull back from. And that's one thing Roy Jones used to do a lot, is he would pull back from shots with his chin in the air. Muhammad Ali was the same, or at least the Muhammad Ali in the 1960s. He relied on leaning back from punches and having his reflexes be fast enough to anticipate the shot coming at him so the lead back would be sufficient, and also using his feet. But as he got older, his feet weren't as fast, his reflexes weren't as quick, and he started getting clipped when he was leaning back a lot more. So I say all that to talk about Eubank Jr. against Liam Smith. I have to actually revise what I said. I have to take back what I said regarding Roy Jones's influence perhaps leading to Eubank Jr.'s demise here. Because the moves Eubank Jr. made, specifically in the sequence where he first gets caught, those are moves he's been making his whole career, long before he was with Roy Jones Jr. And I'll show you what I mean as we proceed. But we first have to look at the third round to understand what went wrong in the fourth round. In the third round, Eubank Jr. was starting to get control of the fight. He was controlling distance. He was spearing Liam Smith with the jab through Liam Smith's guard. Smith was doing his best to try and block and move his head to get away from those jabs, but they were increasingly starting to get through. And when Liam Smith would back Eubank Jr. to the ropes, Eubank would maybe roll once or twice. As we can see in this sequence here, Liam Smith is getting him close to the ropes. Liam Smith goes with a right hand to the body, and Eubank Jr. comes with a left hook to the head. Now, this right hand to the body is something that we're going to come on to a little bit later on, because it leads to the first knockdown. But watch what happens here. Eubank Jr., he's got Liam Smith coming at him. He hits him with a left hook. After landing the right hand to the body, Liam Smith goes for a right hand to the head. Eubank Jr. successfully rolls away from it, and then he grabs Liam Smith around the waist. This is a move Eubank Jr. has been making his whole career. And to show you evidence of that, if we take a look at the Nick Blackwell fight here from many, many moons ago, Eubank Jr. is in a similar position. He's got a pressure fighter and Nick Blackwell coming at him. Eubank Jr. ducks low. You see here, just as he did against Liam Smith when he's got, well, in this instance, a jab coming at him and Nick Blackwell's looking to follow up with the right hand. So he ducks low, he rolls his shoulder. He's still rolling here. He ducks under a Nick Blackwell right hand. Nick Blackwell actually throws an uppercut here. When Eubank Jr.'s head is down by Nick Blackwell's waist, Blackwell comes up with a left uppercut. Because it's not a good quality video, it's difficult to see whether the uppercut lands. But he certainly throws it. Eubank Jr. pulls his head back from the uppercut as if to ride the punch and take the sting off it. He's leaning back on the ropes here. And then because Eubank Jr. doesn't feel like it's safe to counter at this point, watch what he does from this low position. He ducks low again, and then he moves in to grab Nick Blackwell. Now, sometimes he'll grab like this. Other times he'll literally grab round the waist. And the reason he grabs round the waist is because if his shoulder is pressed up against Nick Blackwell's stomach, that means his head cannot be hit from that position, right? Because he's got his left arm around the back of Nick Blackwell and his head is down there. And that's typically what he did in the Blackwell fight, is he would actually grab Blackwell round the stomach. So Blackwell can't actually get at his head at all. So this is a move that Eubank Jr. has been making his whole career. This is not something that he's learned from Roy Jones Jr. He's always been making this move, and he's always been doing the shoulder rolls off the ropes and all this kind of thing. The difference, evidently, in the Liam Smith fight is that Smith was simply more accurate and more clever than the pressure fighters Eubank Jr. has fought before, so he was able to catch Eubank in between those rolls. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So getting back to the Smith fight here, Eubank, after this sequence from Smith, grabs Liam Smith round the waist, just as I described that he was doing in the Nick Blackwell fight. And then he starts to walk Liam Smith to the middle of the ring, you see, to break up his offense, to stop that forward momentum. That's the defensive move he goes for. And once he's got Liam Smith in the middle of the ring, he's back on the jab, spearing the jab through the guard and walking Liam Smith onto uppercuts. He did that successfully in the third round. It was a real good round for him. In fact, at this stage, certainly myself, and I have to imagine many people, felt as though Eubank was starting to take control of the fight based upon this round, because he was getting power shots off, his jab was landing, and Liam Smith was really having very limited success. And Liam Smith, in the middle of the ring, had a really passive defense where he was allowing Eubank Jr. to get shots off. And that's okay if you're managing to slip the shots or completely block them. But no, Eubank was actually getting through with clean shots. Certainly the jab and a couple of clean uppercuts got through and caught Liam Smith in the face. So that didn't look like a good sign for Liam Smith at this stage. If Eubank Jr. had kept it in the middle of the ring like this, maybe it would have been a different fight. I'm not saying he would have won, but maybe the fight would have gone longer. And from a strategic point of view, hindsight is always 20/20. This is what he should have stuck to. He's trying to keep on the move. And if he does get pinned on the ropes, don't roll for too long. Move in, grab Liam Smith around the waist, and then push him back to the middle of the ring and start the process again. Break up his offense using the clinch game. He was doing that well in the third round. Now, in the build-up to the fight and in the build-up to many previous fights, Eubank Jr. has talked about seasoning his opponents, right? Softening them up. And he didn't allow the softening up process to go on for long enough. The reason I say this is because rather than doing what he did when Liam Smith backed him up to the ropes in the third round, which is just roll a couple times, then come in and clinch him around the waist, in the fourth round, he figured that he could actually get Liam Smith to open up and then hit him with some more clean punches, because he doesn't elect to grab Liam Smith around the waist in the sequence where he suffers the first knockdown. So if we see here in the fourth round, Liam Smith backing Eubank Jr. towards the ropes, Eubank Jr. sticking a jab on him, Liam Smith trying to move his head, and we're going to watch for Liam Smith's right hand, because he tried this move in the previous round and it didn't quite come off, but it comes off perfectly here. So Eubank Jr. goes with a jab, Liam Smith goes with a straight right hand to Eubank Jr.'s body. Now, normally, a fighter in Liam Smith's position, when they're thrown a right hand, they'll come back with a left. And this is because of the rotation that you're getting. So once your right shoulder is forward, you've got more space to throw your hook. You can get more leverage on it. You can get more velocity on it once your body is in this position. See, so the natural thing for most fighters, most people to do is throw a left here, either a left to the body or a left to the head. That's what opponents will typically be anticipating though, because it's so common for people to do it. What Liam Smith elects to do is actually double up the right hand. So the right hand goes into the body, and then he comes right back upstairs with a right hand to the head. So Eubank Jr. leans away because he's anticipating maybe a left hook, and the left hook from this position would whiz past him, or if it did catch him, maybe catch him literally on the top of the cranium where he'd be able to take it. But he isn't anticipating a double right hand. Now, to be fair, I think Eubank Jr. might partially block it with his glove, but this gives Liam Smith an entry point into the pocket. So now he's in. Now he's got Eubank Jr. in his wheelhouse, and he can start to go to work with his hooks and uppercuts, which he does do. And his timing, his accuracy in this position was clearly much better than somebody like a Nick Blackwell or a Spike O'Sullivan or Avni Yildirim or the various other pressure fighters who Eubank Jr. has fought. Now, as I mentioned when we looked at the previous round, in this situation here, especially early in a fight, Eubank Jr. will look to roll a couple of times, and then he will clinch you around the waist and walk you back to the middle of the ring. But here, I have to figure that Eubank Jr. was maybe excited by the success he had in the previous round and felt as though it was safe to open up earlier than it actually was. That maybe he could get Liam Smith to start throwing shots at him and he could punch in between Smith's punches. You see, this is what it seems Eubank Jr. thought he could do here, because the clinch doesn't come from Eubank during this sequence. The clinch doesn't come, he just continues rolling. Even though he starts to get hit, he continues trying to roll to evade the shots rather than clinching around the waist like he would typically do. And as I say, I have to take back what I said regarding Roy Jones's influence potentially leading to his demise here, because he doesn't actually have his head high. his head is low when he's getting caught with his shots. And he's always done this. He's always been a guy that ducks low and rolls his shoulder and what have you when he's on the ropes. As I say, the mistake he made was continuing to roll rather than move forward and clinch around the waist. So here, Liam Smith, when Eubank Jr.'s head is low, he lands an uppercut, and Eubank Jr. pulls his head back as if to try and ride the punch. And that's something that he also did, I just showed you, in the Nick Blackwell fight. Blackwell hits him with a shot, and Eubank Jr. pulls his head back to ride the punch. Same situation here with Liam Smith. Pulls his head back to ride the shot, but the shot does still land pretty well. And again, that's testament to the accuracy, the precision punching of Liam Smith. You can see there Eubank Jr. leaning back after he's been hit with the uppercut. And from this position here, Eubank Jr., I guess, is hoping to roll away from the right hand coming at him, but he's not quick enough. Liam Smith distracts him with a left hand to the body, and you can see the right hand is cocked there, it's coming. And Eubank Jr. is leaning away, but he doesn't manage to lean away quick enough to avoid taking the brunt of that shot. And at this point, he's hurt. You can see he almost goes down. He's down on his haunches at this stage. Liam Smith is following up on a clearly hurt fighter. Eubank Jr. manages to rise up a bit, but Liam Smith's all over him, and he hits him with another left uppercut. The left uppercut was really a key punch for Liam Smith in this sequence, because when you've got a guy like Eubank who has a tendency to duck low and to his own right or to your own left, it lines up perfectly with a left uppercut. And this is a punch that previous pressure fighters Eubank Jr.'s been in against haven't been as good at throwing, or haven't thrown as many. The left uppercut. Evidently, Liam Smith's left uppercut was very good, very precise. And that is the shot, for my money at least, that did as much damage as the right hand, was the left uppercut. That shot lands, Eubank Jr.'s in serious trouble, and down he goes. So there you have it. It was a case, as far as I'm concerned, of Eubank Jr. not continuing on with his clinch game as a defensive maneuver, but rather allowing Liam Smith to open up, believing that it was the right time in the fight to try and catch Liam Smith in between his hooks and uppercuts. But it wasn't the right time. Smith clearly needed a lot more seasoning. He hadn't been softened up enough. His punches were still sharp. Eubank needed to keep the fight in the center of the ring as much as possible for several more rounds, do more damage with the jab, maybe incorporate some body shots here and there, because of the fact that at long range in the middle of the ring, Liam Smith doesn't really do much. He allows Eubank Jr. to get shots off. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, as the saying goes. I remember Costamato once saying, it's always good to be in a position in the ring where you can hit your opponent, but he can't hit you. And if that's at long range, stay at long range. If that's working, if you're landing your punches and he's not landing his, stay there. Break him down. And in other instances, you might be a shorter guy who's not as good at long range and your opponent isn't good up close. So stay inside. Don't allow him to get that room to extend his arms. It's all about working with your strengths, sticking to your strengths. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my technical analysis. I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast, where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.